we'll talk about action plans and how and what and how we can organize. So I'm using tools in that section that I'll be sharing. You probably have your own tools because some of you have been there and have been doing events for a while. So whatever I'm going to be showing is baby steps for you guys. But again, using and understanding the basics is very important to go into more advanced stuff. So just making sure that everybody's on the same level. I feel like I've heard that when I've, from my dance teachers, basics are important. So anyways, life advice, dance life advice, kind of relevant here. Just putting it out there. Good. So what we're going to be looking at into that second section is what are we doing? What's the plan? The team, who's going to help, and the marketing. How and what will we communicate? That's what we're looking at right now, right?
Hashtag basics are important.
Basics are important. There you go. So first thing I wanted to look at, and that's going to be a bit more complicated because I need to switch to different screens, but bear with me. We need to organize the key actions using a scenario system and get a clear picture. So why do we want to do this? Because the pandemic brings something that's called uncertainty. So it's impossible to align ourselves on one thing, right? Using scenario-based system will help us take decisions quickly and be ready for almost anything. So I'll switch to something here. Can everybody see that? Did the screen change? You can see Westy Montreal action plan and stuff like that. So I've put a bunch of examples in there, and I'll show you how I organize it. You can organize it the way you want. What I want people to understand here is how the system, works. Basically, you want to note your scenarios. We have scenario 0, scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, and so on. We want to name the scenario. We want to understand the variant about the scenario. We want to have the category that it will influence. And then it's just basic management. Who owns the project? Who's going to assist? What's the actions and examples of actions that we'll have to take course, and comments about what's happening. The first part of this is based on our nonprofit organization in Montreal here. So I think the president of the organization is also watching right now. So by the way, this is what we might want to do. Just saying hi, making sure that you see what's happening. So scenario 0 is still confined. The variant is confined. It hits mostly dancers. This project and this organization would be for me with an assist of Pascal, which is the president. We want to announce future safety measures. There's nothing else we can do, so let's at least start communicating the safety measures. Plan a series of posts, start to let the community assimilate the safety procedures. As we've seen before, people won't just accept it right out of the blue, so we have to make sure that we start communicating early on it. So that's part of plan 0. If we go into scenario 1, we are reopening. Yay, but with a maximum of 10 people, outdoors only. Crap. What happens with studio rental? What happens with dancers? Those are the two main things that will be impacted in this. That main panel, by the way, is good for pretty much anyone. If you're a dance professional, if you're an organization, that would be the main level. There's going to be more tabs that we're going to look at in a second, but the bigger the organization, the more structure you want to get, all right? So just as we move into this, you'll understand a little bit more. So, in scenario 1, we can't reopen, so we have to touch base with the studio, contact the owner, and touch base about their strategy on their side. On the communication side, relay the news so people start small groups of dancing outdoors, post about the new rules, and encourage small group to meet for social dance. So basically, we have a plan going on already there. Then there's a variation of scenario 1. Would be maximum 10 people, but now that could be anywhere. Doesn't have to be outside. Now we need to contact the studio, touch base, see about their rates, see about their strategy, if we can start to reopen. And on the communication side, relay the news so people can smart small groups of dancing. We want to post about the new rules and encourage small groups. Again, talking about safety and stuff like that. Then we move into scenario number 2, which is a maximum of 25 people, outdoors only. Then scenario 2.1, maximum 25 to 50 people, indoors and outdoors. And then we lay out a bunch of scenarios. Some of them you already thought about. Let's say, for instance, number 3, reopening is delayed until June. Reopening is delayed until September. reopening is delayed until March 2021, which is a reality that we might have to face as bigger events, right? So basically, by using a system like this, we'll be able, until vaccine. That one is hard to assimilate, right? We have to wait until vaccine before everything comes back. Well, there's still a way to have a strategy about this. What I wrote here, if it's delayed until vaccine, get in touch with smaller organizers, touch base with the council to plan the next actions, closing down, relocating, changing the event nature, going smaller, going into a different pattern. So there's always a solution for everything. What's good is once you've laid out all of that strategy and different scenarios, if you can look at my screen right now, you can choose to, whoops, that's the wrong part. You can choose to only show the relevant ones, which means if we can have a maximum of 10 people outdoors, I think that's it, and that's only 1.1. Well, now I have my strategy in front of me. I looked at all of my scenarios, made a basic strategy for all of the scenarios, put it out there, and now they're all filtered, and my strategy has already been thought out. Everybody knows what's going to happen because now we're in scenario 1.1. Sounds good? Didn't lose anybody in there? Awesome.
Yes, c'est parfait. Merci.
So, as we get into bigger organizations, I want you guys to take a look at the tabs that I've created at the bottom. Larger organizations such as Liberty Swing or major events, right? Will hold on. Yes.
Maybe you could share this sheet empty so we have a beginning.
Absolutely. Dans le sens de maintenant? Okay. Yeah. This will be shared. That's one of the tools I said I was going to be sharing. So if you don't have a system, you can have it. That's what I'm giving to people. I built this. I took a week to get all the tools together. Of course, I'm going to share them to you. So usually in organizations like bigger events, you have internal communications, operations, communications, website. Usually, website is part of communications, but I like to have it separate because they are usually different teams, and web developers have a different mind than the rest of the world, right? Just kidding. But, those are the things that I've seen that are most common in all the organizations I've implemented this system in, right? So what's going to happen is your scenarios will become your master plan, and you can go into your internal communication and have, bits and parts of your scenario being laid out in the same fashion in the same system, which means now we know that we went into scenario 1.1, which means we can reopen with a maximum of 10 people. So what do? I go here, and I switch to my scenario 1.1. So all of the crap disappears. All of the other scenarios that might happen later disappear temporarily, and we can focus on those, on the scenario 1.1. All of your team can have access to this as well because this is a Google spreadsheet, which means everybody can work from the same document. Everybody knows instantly. Let's say we're in Liberty Swing organization. John can just say to everyone, okay, there's been news. We are going for scenario 1.1. Sends that information to his team, and everybody can go in there. The scenario is already laid out. Everybody knows what they have to do. Person responsible for internal comms knows what's going to happen. Operations knows what's going to happen. Contact the hotel, contact the rental company, cancel creative orders, cancel trophies, all of that things. Everything's already laid out. Your plan is there. You know what's happening with 1.1. Communications, same thing. Plan post to communicate the actions about the safety, communicate our official procedures, news articles, plan a survey to test the reception of the new procedures. Everything's already there for plan 1.1, right? And then website, same thing, already laid out. Change the homepage, create a built-in survey for people, change the event date, create our safety procedures page. Everything's there. I'll share this. You can empty it yourself, but you can still use those examples because those are the basic things that we all go to for management. You probably have 10,000 more things to think about, but these would be the top of mind things that has to happen right now, right? So this is the action plan section, and that enables you to know what's going to happen. You still have to make difficult decisions, but you don't have to commit to it right away. Let's say we go back to our scenario 3, which was, I hope we won't get to that, but then we can see here, having to postpone the event, contacting the hotel, and plan a deal for next year. You know this might happen, and you know that whenever you cross that line, the plan is already laid out. Your whole team knows what to do. You're already lined up. You know what's going to happen. You know what Smaller events are going to go forward. You know where you're going to invest your time, right? So this is a powerful tool to have your plan ready no matter what. And this is how you get ready into a pandemic. You get ready for as many scenarios as you can anticipate, right? This is what we've been doing in the corporate world. And I can tell you, it enables us to move in any directions really quickly. Our restaurant would never do delivery. Never, because it was about the experience in the store. Pandemic shows up. 1 week later, deliveries all over the place. Because we were able to move, because we had a system that enabled it. I didn't sleep for a week because I had to implement everything on the website, but shit got done. And now we're ahead of our competitors. Now we're not competing with each other. That's even better. What we want is to be able to adapt quickly so that we can maintain our community as strong as possible and make sure that whenever we can come back, there is something happening. We want to keep people dancing. This is our end game, right? Good. Any questions about the system? I've seen the chat going nuts.
Sonia a suggéré que ton PayPal que les gens contribuent étant donné que c'est de travail très important.
Thank you, Sonia. I appreciate that. I did not think about it. I'll have to build it. I did not expect that. Thank you very much. So I'm going to try to get back to my presentation so we can move on to the next step. Where are you, presentation? Oh, there you are. Good. Moving on. So I think that explains better what I meant by organizing the key actions, using a scenario system, and get a clear picture. Once this is filled up, I can guarantee you'll know exactly where you're going. It won't be comfortable, but everybody will be in line with the same scenario. So next thing is, I wanted to talk about the team. Part of having a big community is that we can all work together. So you have to build your crew if you don't already have one. And I'm not talking only about the people of your staff. Who's your network? Who will help you share the information? Those are the people that are directly involved with you. Those are the people that are locally active in your local communities. Those are external leaders, and those are a bunch of Facebook groups. Flora knows what I'm talking about because I think she has over 60 groups. When we need to share something, she just goes. It's everywhere. Everybody knows. She can get 5,000 views within a week. It's ridiculous, right? With anything. Anyways, just a quick example. So I wanted to introduce you to something that I call my marketing book. First tab that we're going to look into that system is called the team. So this is where you can take notes of your staff. This is where you can note the different local influencers. Technically, you guys already have lists like this. Just putting them into buckets so that they're easier to reach and that everybody can work on the system at the same time. Just laying out a plan, right? Community leaders, made more space for that because there's usually a lot. Facebook groups that you want to be able to post your stuff to, like that. When you need to get the information out, you don't only send a post to your Facebook page, you send the post to everyone in that group, which means when you start communicating about your safety procedure, all of those people are spreading it. Now, the good news is when you share something like this, one person has a network and 200 people see their post. Now, how many people do I have on there? Probably something like 50 or 70 people on there. When you calculated really quickly. Sorry. So basically, all of those people will see and share to their own network. So you've reached 50,000 people within a couple of minutes. This is why having a solid crew is important. But you need to start developing a relationship with those people as well, because like you can't just show up and say, hey, can you share that? Right now, maybe you could, because we're building something for the community part of it, and we all linked through something. But I think there's enough connections through that group, through our community, to be able to create that more efficiently. And that's not news. People have been using this for a long time. We go into classes, people help each other, talk about their, each other's classes and stuff like that. It's an old system. I just want to put it into a strategy because an event has that power, right? So one more thing I wanted to say about the team that's very important is pro tip, share the plan with your team. Be transparent. The people that work with you on your events or on your community or the people that help you with your Facebook Lives and solo classes, those people are your best ambassadors. If they know what's happening, you'll make sure to avoid the wrong information, misleading information, fake news. You'll make sure more people are communicating well about it, less stress, all in one direction. make sure, and that seems to be basic for people. They're like, I mean, that, everybody knows that, but not everybody does it. Just make sure to remember, in a pandemic crisis, things are changing daily. If you forget to communicate with your team, you're going to get 17 people going in different directions. And this, for communication strategy, is garbage, right? Just want to put it out there. No prior frustrations, maybe a little bit, but anyways, not about anybody in the dance world, right? Just wanted to make sure that we all remember to communicate with our team, because they are your biggest asset in this pandemic. Good. Any questions so far? People are good? Let me just grab some water before I start spitting sand. Awesome. All right. The communication strategy. Finally, we get to that point we wanted to get to since the beginning, right? Now we understand the social media world. Now we understand that we have a plan, we have something solid. Now we need to communicate about it. So we want to work on the perception. In our strategy, we want to make sure that we work onto what people perceive of our event, of our brand, whoever we are. We want to make sure we show that we're solid and that we're leaders, instead of just waiting for who's going to do the thing right and let people, get their feet in the water to test the market, right? And we want to have a community movement. That's why I'm putting it out there. I've said that already a couple of times. So let's go into my marketing book. So we've seen our team, first communication line, good. Strategy. I want to keep it as simple as possible. The strategy can be very complicated. So the best way for me to communicate a strategy to a team is to keep it into small buckets, very clearly, using the message and the acts, which I'm probably spelling wrong. I think it's spelled in French, my bad. I'm not sure what I should be writing there. But basically, what's our message? What's the communication axis we want to talk about? When does it begin? When does it end? This document becomes very dynamic. All your communication team is linked on it. They know what's happening. They know what they need to start doing. So message here would be, we are closed. The axis would be, we are sad to say we are closed, but it's the right thing to do, which a lot of people have been through already, right? Just makes sense. Begins on this date, will end, I don't know when. It depends when the government, enables the system again, depends on how the pandemic evolves. There's a lot of factors in there. So we want to keep it open. We are thinking about you. Very strong message that we forget that we have to convey. We are thinking about you. And then the axis we could use for that would be, we can't dance, but we remember the good times. Easy, share what you've done in the past. A couple of events, a couple of people have done this before. Fantastic job. It enables you to stay top of mind, but also creates that compassion feeling through the dance world, and that need for connection. Instead of being something that's geared toward performance, it's something that's geared toward good feelings together. Very important, because it's tied to the people's need, right? We know that we want to start and end, you put your dates on there. And then event postponed, money back versus next year. We will go through this as a community, would be the axis, making sure that your strategy has a clear message and a clear axis, so that, people that create content can start, working on it right away. And then usually as the strategy folds out in the social media, the rest of the strategy and the operations and intercommunications is happening at the same time. So people can see that there's movement, they can see that you know what you're doing, and it's creating a very strong, powerful impact about your brand and about your event, right? I put a bunch out there, I'll just read them. Message, we are building safety measures so you can dance. We want to reopen, but your safety is important, would be the axis. Then here are our safety measures. Here how it's gonna go, get used to it before we open. Get used to it is the hard part, right? We are reopening. We talked about this. Let's be responsible. We're so happy to dance though, right? See how that message fold, how you can vehicle your whole strategy within 2 little blocks on one Excel sheet, and everybody can align into your content creation. Even if you share this with the pros, with your staff, when they're posting, because they're part of your network, when they're posting about it, they're talking in the same language, they're using the same direction, right? And going back into confinement, just wanted to place it out there, because we have to remember, even if it's going good now, maybe it's going to fall again. We have to have a strategy for that, guys. We've done this once, we can do it again, would be my axis, right? Good, so that's part of the marketing book I'll be sharing as well. You can put all of your strategies in there, and it's easy to communicate, right? That brings us to the calendar. This is a tool that everybody uses in the content creation world. It's just out there so you have a way to structure your posts so you can go into approving, because sometimes, most of the time you trust your people communicating, but with this, you can easily and quickly identify the posts that will be important. You can fix the mistakes, you can check the content, you can make sure that everything's aligned with the strategy. So that's usually a good thing to have, and also enables you to do something which is called planning ahead, which means your content is ready, you can pre-post it, and you can focus on the things at hand, which is transforming that event, making sure you get into the operational stuff, making sure you don't have to think about what are we going to post tomorrow all the time. So it's a basic thing. What platform am I posting on? What date? What's the text? What content, image, hashtags for Instagram, and notes about the post if someone has to say anything. Basic stuff. People in Canada would have to write text in French and English. That would be the only variation I could see. Yay for living in Quebec. But basically, that's the system, right? This document also has something that I call branding basics. I won't explain through all of it, but I just wanted you to know that it's there. Making sure that easily close to your content, you can see your core values, your core mission, your tone, your guidelines, your circumstantial elements, your personas, who are your typical answers, who are you talking to, your audience and demographics. Making sure that this is all close to your post will make sure that if you have a doubt if your message will reach out to your people, you can just go back to your branding basics and look it up, right? This is just basic branding stuff. Just wanted to make sure that you understand that this is there and it exists. Good. Safety and health. What's next on this? Let's look at the health procedure. I built something for you guys that's very important. You have to build your own solid plan. I will provide you with one that's based on the restoration standards. So we in the restaurant world, because we're doing delivery, have to respect over 100 steps of cleaning and maintenance and security and safety at opening and close of any and every restaurants that we have, because we want to make sure that we're not just delivering the virus to people in their houses, right? That would be pretty bad. And as I say to my team, make sure you follow them, because I don't want to manage a crisis on the newspaper, right? So that being said, I'll show you the plan that I've done. Make sure, team awareness, community movement, those are things that you'll see often in this. So here's our health procedure. Those, again, I'll repeat that, are based on restaurant grade level, which means it has to work. It's not half-assed. I'll go through them because I think that's important. You don't have to do the research afterwards. You know that this is, what follows the procedure for most health organizations. The first thing will be dancers will register online and pay online, avoiding cash. The way this document is made, by the way, is here's the procedure. This is why we want to put it in place. Is it active or not? Because then you can activate and deactivate them as we go. What are the consequences for someone that doesn't follow the rule, and notes about it? So dancers will register online and pay online. We want to do that because it controls the number of people in site, and it avoids overflow and useless transit. So you don't have to move to your event if you can't go in. That's more for smaller events or for dance classes and stuff like that. If there's a limit of people that can go in, that's the best way to manage it, right? Second thing, staff wash studio and surfaces upon arrival. Kind of speaks for itself. Avoid any risks by making sure that it's clean when you go in. Someone is. That's what I wanted to provide, something useful. 3, staff must wear a mask at all times. Gloves are encouraged. Staff safety and also a sense of safety. If your staff is wearing masks, it encourages people to do the same thing. Consequence. Hold on.
I presume people on site means people at the work site, not on the website.
Correct. Exactly. So the consequence, just make sure that it's put into, a certain vocabulary. Stay soft, because, we're not military either. Verbal request, we love our staff. Make sure that it's clear that when you're saying to someone, sorry, you can't go in, you just don't kick him out of the door because he's sick. That's not very community-like. If someone can't go in, there's very good reasons, and we want to make sure that it's done lovingly. It sounds weird, but you can kick someone out lovingly, right? For the sake of our health. I triggered some people. No? Yes? We good? Okay, good. So I would add in the notes that we need to get masks. Pascal, we need to get masks, by the way. Number 4, masks during dancing. So that's something that brings more of a sense of safety than anything else, because I mean, you're breathing the same air as I am. So is it that efficient? Probably. Just make sure that, especially at the beginning, that we implement that kind of stuff. If someone doesn't follow, politely has to stand on the side and watch. It will fade over time, but we have to be very firm at first with things like this, right? So that people are diligent about other people's safety. Temperature scan at studio entrance away from the ballroom. So they sell something on Amazon and in different stores that's called an infrared thermometer. We use them in the restaurant. Very easy. The first thing that happens when you get symptoms most of the time with the pandemic is that your temperature goes up. So by having this, you can just point it at people's forehead and you know right away if there could be a risk or not. That's an easy thing. It's done in the restaurants because this is what will tell you most of the time if someone could be at risk. Doesn't mean that he's sick. It just means that he might be at risk. Very good rule of thumb for people to feel safe as well, because you can show you're doing something concrete more than just ask them if they're sick, right? Ask every dancer if they had symptoms or any risk or encounters in the last 14 days. People usually, when they have to answer that questions, will be pretty straightforward most of the time. Avoid touching face and wash hands at wash stations before getting on the floor. Very important. Supervise the hand cleaning during the first dances to make sure that people show we're not kidding. Still, politely ask to wash hands, just showing like the respect of people. That's very important. Non-dancing social must be held outside of the dancing zone. Create a waiting lounge. So in our case, for our regular dance events, there's seats and tables within the room. Those are all gone for a while. There's going to be a lounge where you can start talking, have that minimal 2 meters distance, just to make sure we don't, tempt the devil. We want to make sure that we're the only contacts that we have are dance related, right? Wash everything every 15 minutes. So this one's pretty harsh, but especially when there's a second wave coming, you want to make sure that your staff, when they're not doing anything, they start cleaning a little bit just to make sure the surfaces are maintained to be clean. It eliminates a lot more risk. Very important. Wash studio upon leaving. That shows an positive for your brand, because your organization looks a lot more professional when they're taking care of the studio. So I'm saying that for people that rent, just cleaning behind yourself is just good practice. You don't look like a bad organization, and it's good for your brand. Yes. Oh yeah, the DJ could call the hand washing. So everybody stops, there's a 2-minute break, everybody go wash their hands, or constant reminders. There's a way to make it fun too, Put like elevator music while people do it. I don't know. There's a way to make it fun. I love the idea. Making sure that it's about the people, not about the organization. That's one way, making it fun.
Line dancing.
There you go. You have to do the Royston line dance 3 times. That's about the right time, while you're washing your hands, instead of singing happy birthday. All good ideas. We'll talk about this a little bit afterwards. Plan a training about procedures and language for all staff. Making sure that your staff knows the language you want them to use is very important. We all talk the same language and we look like an organized structure. We want to avoid staff that says, I don't know. Those are the worst. Not for them, but for the organization. Someone that doesn't know what's happening or doesn't know who to refer you to shows lack in organization, right? So that would be something acceptable in the past, but with the pandemic, we want to make sure we show good structure, and all it requires is a solid meeting explaining the language we want to use. Compensation for staff extra work. People will work a lot more and start cleaning a lot more. So maybe we want to make sure we have a plan to compensate them, and that brings raised cost of entry, the COVID measure tax, which is making sure that people understand that, people are getting involved, they're cleaning, but it's also worth like compensation. So by communicating that, you can also make sure, or actually I could say something different. Be transparent about what you're using that money for. Sometimes the break even is going to be harder, because if you're going to only get 20 people in the room, well, you can definitely not monetize, or at least break even, right? Which is what most nonprofit organization wants. So just make sure you communicate. Prices will adapt. People will be okay as long as you communicate about it. If you just raise the price, say nothing, That's when people get upset. If you explain what's happening, they can make a choice to go, and I can tell you people will support you. People understand that there's something happening, right? Good, so that covers most of it. Those are the most relevant one. I'm pretty sure you don't want to go through 90 other measures, but those are mostly for how to clean a shrimp properly, and I don't think we need to go over that right now with you guys. Good, so I'll be sharing this. Feel free to use it. It's been tested, battle tested. We've been working with this for the last month at the restaurant, and anybody can enter our stores and feel safe, and this is exactly what we're looking for. That trust in the safety, and making sure we implement and communicate that plan to people as a community as fast as possible will help us create that, that trust feeling we were talking about earlier. Most of your first content that's going to be posted will be about safety if everything goes according to plan. Safety, fun, entertainment. This is what we should see on our social medias. Good. Any questions? That's a lot of stuff to take in, right? So I created something for you guys. It's a cheat sheet. If you're an event organizer with an upcoming event, what you should be focusing on right now is creating trust about your event, installing safety procedures as soon as possible, install a reimbursement procedure as soon as possible so that people can buy the tickets and know that they're safe even if the event is not happening. Communicate a lot about both, resume ticket sales, give regular updates about the event, and keep dancers in the loop. This is what you should be doing as your communication strategy, 100%. Event organizers with canceled event. Stay top of mind. You want to stay top of mind. Post useful or entertaining content regularly. Regularly means, depending how close your event is, between once every 2 weeks to once every week would be a regular occurrence for an event. And then if you are, anyways, we can get into that afterwards. Support your local events and events that supported you in the past, because you want to reinforce your connections for when you're going to open again. And sometimes you can maybe sponsor a dance or something like that just to stay top of mind. It shows that you care about people because those organizations might need your support as well. Start installing safety procedures early. Be part of the community movement. It will pay off when you reopen, right? If you're a community organizer, create trust about your dances. Install safety procedures as soon as possible, communicate a lot about it, keep dancers in the loop, encourage safe social interactions, get the dancers on their feet again. Now we can start to notice that all of those things, they're all community levels that we have, right? And if we all work together, it becomes a lot more powerful because everybody's going the same direction. But I'm not done. Watch this. I sound like a carpet salesman. Dance professionals, show yourself with, with pants. Stephen, please. Show yourself, show you are, get personal. Your part is a key element. People crave social interactions. I'll read that again. People crave social interactions. You can provide this. Go live, do anything normal. I saw Phoenix showing himself cooking for the first time. I don't know if it went well, but I know I felt a lot more connected to him. And that's the social interactions that we need. Share the community movement. Don't focus only on selling. This is a hard one because when you're a dance professional and that's your revenue, it's hard to not focus on getting that money because you need that to live. People understand that too, but to a certain extent, it overflows the market and all we see is dance classes. A healthy marketing strategy has 80% useful content to 20% promotions. So if you're posting once a week about your classes, you'd want to post on a regular basis, like 5, 6, 7 times about something else to be relevant to people, to show who you are, to create a human connection. Because if you're not doing that, you're becoming just a salesman and it's not the best, right? I know this is harsh, but my job is to show you where we should go and not necessarily to soften it up and say you should keep going and selling stuff, just making sure that I get the right information out there. Lastly, the dance schools, create trust about your school. You can see that there's a pattern going on, right? Install safety procedures as soon as possible, communicate about it, build a dynamic schedule that will adapt to the pandemic as it changes. Keep dancers in the loop, encourage safe social interactions, get the dancers on their feet. Encourage them to go in the parks and dance. Make sure that they wear masks just so that they can go outside. At first, they'll be scared, but as we build that new normal and that it becomes normal to go dance within those parameters, it'll get more comfortable, and we'll have been successful at creating a dance community that's still dancing even if there's a pandemic out there. Good. So that was the content. Everything is going to be on the group that I'll be sharing in a couple of minutes. And I also will start posting examples in that group because I didn't want to, there's already like 28, 29 slides in this presentation. There's a lot of things to take in. So there's going to be examples of posts that I think are useful. I'll base those on my experience, things that I've tested. Westy Montreal organization will start posting. All of the events I work for will start posting also in that line, just because I want to show that this can work. So if you're not sure yet, or if you want to have some time to build your strategy, just know that we'll start slowly going towards that, and that you'll have a concrete example. And I'll share a bunch of examples for content creators in that group. And that'll happen until that pandemic is over, because I want to make sure we have a place where we can exchange and talk about what we need. Good? That being said,